Genetically modified plant is one whose DNA has been altered by scientists experimenting in a lab in order to bring about the most desirable and profitable traits. This synthesis completely defies nature's organic process. Whether you know it or not, you have more than likely consumed food or drink that contains genetically modified plants. Things like soft drinks and cereals have genetically modified corn. The canola oil sitting in your cabinet right now that you use for baking and cooking stemmed from a genetically modified canola plant. About 90% of all soybeans produced in the United States derived from some type of genetically modified soybean, and the cotton used to make the clothes on our backs is genetically modified. There are two types of genetically modified crops: herbicide tolerant and insect resistant. Herbicide tolerant crops are genetically engineered to be immune to the pesticide glyphosate, often marketed as the product Roundup. Herbicide tolerant crops exist so that farmers can blanket spray their fields with the pesticide, as opposed to using traditional methods like weeding by hand or spot spraying. As a result of this, over the past 20 years, pesticide use in the United States has skyrocketed, and corporations who produce this pesticide, like Monsanto, have profited greatly. Author Andy Reese describes it best when discussing one of the most prolific problems facing genetic modification. He said, "Once released into the environment, genetic mistakes cannot be contained, recalled, or cleaned up, but will be passed on to future generations indefinitely." Plants naturally cross-pollinate in many ways. There is nothing stopping a plant genetically modified for increased yield from crossing with a weed found in a neighboring farm. Once this weed receives that genetic information, it will pass it on to its offspring, their offspring, and so forth. Eventually, these weeds will completely take over an area, leading to a reduction in the biodiversity of that ecosystem. Perhaps the scariest part of genetic modification are the largely unknown statistics. Corn, soy, and cotton are the most heavily produced genetically modified crops in the United States. With 90% of all corn grown genetically modified, 93% of all cotton grown genetically modified, and 94% of all soybeans grown in the United States genetically modified. This led to nearly 300 million pounds of pesticide being used in 2014. As consumers, the purchasing choices we make will affect what large corporations produce. Shop at local farmers markets or produce stands for organic fruits and vegetables, and be sure to look for the non-GMO labels on foods that you buy. Corporations like Walmart are in business to make money, not to help you make healthier choices. If we modify our purchasing habits in order to sustain our land, there will no longer be a need for genetically modified crops.